Ever get this weird feeling, like companies are whispering straight to your subconscious, making you buy things you didn't even know you needed? Yeah, it's like they've hacked our brains. That's not magic, it's neuromarketing. Today on Cognitive Curves, we're breaking down how brands use brain science, like fMRI scans and emotional triggers, to make their products irresistible. You'll start questioning just how much control you have in those shopping aisles. Joining us are our two expert hosts, Emily, a cognitive psychologist specializing in consumer behavior, and Ryan, a neuropsychologist, here to reveal the brain science behind those clever ads. Let's dive in.
Ever get this weird feeling, like the companies are kind of whispering directly to your subconscious, getting you to buy stuff you didn't even know you needed?
Yeah, like they figured out how to hack our brains. It goes way beyond regular marketing, this whole neuromarketing thing.
Right. It's kind of creepy when you think about it.
It digs deep into how our brains make decisions.
Which is exactly what we're diving into today. We're cracking open this book, Neuromarketing, the brain science behind successful brands.
We're going deep on this one.
To uncover how brands use, brain science to make their products irresistible.
And trust me, it gets pretty wild.
Yeah.
Like, they're using things like fMRI and EEG.
Hold on. I gotta stop you right there. For those of us who haven't spent much time in a neurobiology lab, what exactly are those? fMRI, EEG?
Okay, so imagine you can actually see what's happening inside someone's head when they see a brand. Like, which parts of their brain light up when they see, say, a Rolex versus a Timex.
Whoa, seriously?
That's fMRI. It's like taking a snapshot of the brain's reaction in real time. Then there's EEG, which is more about tracking the brain's electrical activity. You can actually measure how engaged someone is with, like, an ad or a shopping experience.
So we're not talking about those old school surveys anymore, asking people, hey, do you like this thing?
Yeah, this is the real deal.
Oh.
You actually see their brain light up or not in real time.
Mind-blowing.
Totally changes the game when it comes to understanding why we buy what we buy. You see, one of the craziest things neuromarketing has discovered is how much our emotions drive our decisions. Way more than logic.
You mean all those carefully crafted arguments about why we need that new phone?
Exactly.
It's our gut feelings doing the real talking.
Exactly. There was this fascinating study by this guy, Antonio Damasio. He studied patients whose brains had damage to the areas responsible for emotions. But get this, their logic.
Totally fine.
Also,
Interesting.
but guess what? They couldn't make even the simplest decisions.
No way. You're telling me choosing between Coke or Pepsi would throw them for a loop?
It's wild, right? It proves how important our emotions are, even for everyday choices.
So we're not just thinking machines, we're feeling machines too.
We're wired to connect with things that make us feel something, that hit us in the feels.
Which explains why so many ads these days are less about product features and more about vibes.
Totally. Think about those Coca-Cola ads. They're not really selling sugary drinks. They're selling happiness, nostalgia, good times with friends.
You're right. It's like that Share a Coke campaign. Remember seeing your name on a bottle?
Exactly. They tapped into something powerful there.
So how else are brands using this brain science stuff to get us to buy? What other tactics are we talking about here?
Oh, they've got a whole playbook. One of the biggest ones, emotional engagement.
Makes sense. Emotions are powerful, right?
It's about connecting their products to feelings. Could be anything. Happiness, excitement, even fear, FOMO. Whatever works for their audience.
So like those home security ads that are basically mini horror movies?
Exactly. Or those heartwarming holiday commercials that make you want to hug your family and buy a year's supply of whatever they're selling.
It's all about the feels. I get it. Okay, what else? What about this thing I've heard about scarcity and urgency? Those sound kind of intense.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one. Ever notice how many online stores have those flashing banners? Limited time offer. Only a few left.
Ugh, yes. It's like they're pushing my buttons on purpose.
They're playing on that fear of missing out, that FOMO everyone's talking about.
Which I totally fall for, by the way. Especially when I see that only 2 left in stock message. It's like my brain goes, gotta buy it now.
Our brains hate losing out on something. It's hardwired into us.
So those countdown timers, the limited editions, they're like pressure cookers for our brains.
Basically, it creates this urgency, this gotta have it now feeling.
And we fall for it every time.
It's powerful stuff. But speaking of powerful, let's talk about the most irresistible word in marketing. Free.
Seriously, though, free is like my kryptonite. I can resist almost anything but that word.
It's like magic, right? Our brains just short circuit. Suddenly, we're not thinking straight.
Tell me about it. I just signed up for this whole year-long subscription
Oh, no.
because they threw in a free month.
I've been there.
And, I know I probably won't use it that long, so why do I do it?
Behavioral economists call it the zero price effect. And it goes back to what we were saying about, hating to lose.
Loss aversion.
Exactly. When we see something free, our brain basically thinks zero risk.
Makes sense.
There's nothing to lose,
Yeah.
so we jump on it, even if it's not really that great of a deal.
Yeah, it's like my brain sees free and forgets how to do math.
Our sense of value gets all messed up. We overestimate the worth of anything that's free.
Which explains all those impulse buys, the ones we regret later.
Exactly. It's the free that gets us.
Okay, but what about things like those free trials? You know they're going to get you eventually.
Oh, yeah. They hook you with free, get you used to the service, then bam, the trial's over.
And suddenly you can't live without it.
They play us like fiddles. Think about Spotify. Millions of songs. Free. Who could say no to that?
No one. The answer is no one.
But then those ads. Right. They start to get to you.
They get to you.
So then that premium version, the one without ads, doesn't seem so bad.
Genius. Pure genius. They got us hooked. Okay, let's talk about something else that always gets me. How companies decide on their prices. Especially tech companies.
It's fascinating, right? There's a whole psychology to it. They use this technique called anchoring.
Anchoring.
It's all about how we compare things. Our brains use reference points to figure out if something's a good deal or not. And those first reference points, those anchors, super important.
So, what's an example of that in the real world? How does anchoring work in, say, the Apple Store?
Think about when Apple launches a new iPhone, the top-of-the-line model, all the bells and whistles, and the price tag. Astronomical.
The one that costs more than my rent.
That's the anchor. That crazy high price sets the stage for everything else.
So when they introduce the slightly less fancy model,
Which is still expensive, let's be real.
it doesn't seem as bad.
Because your brain is still thinking about that first crazy high price, even though they're not really comparable.
It's like they mess with our perception of what's reasonable.
Exactly. And it's not just pricing. They do it with product lines, too.
Right.
By putting that aspirational top-tier product out there, it elevates the whole brand.
So sneaky. They're playing 4D chess with our brains,
Yeah.
which makes you think, what else are they doing that we don't even realize?
Well, one thing that always gets us is a good story.
Oh, for sure. Who doesn't love a good story?
It's in our DNA. Stories help us understand the world, connect with each other.
Even shape our memories, right?
Exactly. And brands. They know this. They use it to their advantage.
Wait, there's a neuromarketing strategy for storytelling?
Absolutely. It's called narrative transportation. They want to draw you in, make you feel like you're part of the story.
Yeah, and it works. I mean, think about some of those brands with the really powerful messages, almost like a story behind them. You're not just buying a product, you're buying into their whole philosophy.
Exactly. They're crafting these narratives that really resonate. Think about Nike. Just do it.
Such a powerful slogan.
It's more than a slogan. It's like this whole philosophy, this way of life.
Right. You're not just buying shoes, you're buying into that feeling of empowerment, that I can do anything attitude.
Exactly. That emotional connection.
Yeah.
That's what builds brand loyalty. It makes you come back for more.
It's like they're building a tribe and we all want to be a part of it.
It's true. And, speaking of tapping into our desires, let's not forget about how powerful our senses are.
Oh, sensory branding. Right. Didn't we touch on that a little earlier? We got to go deeper on that.
For sure. Our brains are constantly taking in information, right? Everything we see, hear, smell, taste, touch.
It all adds up.
It all shapes how we experience the world, including brands.
So it's not just about seeing that flashy ad or that cool logo.
Nope. It's about the whole experience. Think about Starbucks. What hits you first?
The smell of coffee, definitely.
Exactly. That aroma, the warm lighting, those comfy chairs, maybe some jazz music playing in the background.
And don't forget those green straws. It all just screams Starbucks.
It all adds up to this feeling, this sense of comfort and familiarity. It's like a craving they create.
It's pretty incredible when you think about how much goes into it. All that thought, all that planning, just to get us to buy something.
It shows you how powerful this stuff is. Consumer psychology, neuromarketing, it's all about understanding how our brains work.
But here's the thing. Now we know how it works, too.
Right. Knowledge is power.
We can be smarter shoppers now.
Absolutely. We don't have to be manipulated. We can be more aware, make choices that align with our own values.
I like the sound of that. Well, this has been an amazing deep dive, really eye-opening. We've learned so much about how neuromarketing uses our brains to, influence us.
It's a fascinating field. and it's always changing.
So, to our listeners, stay curious. The more you know about how marketing works, the more power you have as a consumer.
Couldn't agree more.
A huge thank you to you for joining us on this journey into the world of neuromarketing. It's been a wild ride.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all our amazing listeners, thanks for tuning in. Keep those brains engaged, and we'll catch you next time for another deep dive into a new and fascinating topic.
Stay ahead of the game. Subscribe to Cognitive Curves for more mind-bending insights into how psychology shapes our everyday lives. Got questions or want to share your thoughts? Drop them in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.